Oh, here you go. Go. Good? That's a big fish.
Full hand on tail. Yeah, looks so good.
Look how broad that thing is.
What if I was on the full medium?
Beautiful. Oh my. That's a big fish. Rip.
That's what I've been waiting for all day.
That's over 6. Oh. That's a good fish. Donkey. That's a heavy ball.
Oh my God, please get the net. Please get the net.
I got you, buddy.
That was the weirdest one ever. There you go. What the? Oh yeah, he's got another 4.5.
Oh my God, this might be it. If I can land this fish. Holy sh! 5.06. She's thick. Oh my God! Oh my God! Holy! What a beast! Dude, that's it! That's it! 4 pounds smaller. I need a picture. Oh wow!
That might be a 4. That might be a 4.
Yeah, it's a 4. You guys show that off to 4 pounds, 12 ounces. Holy! Trailer just getting that. Yeah?
Yeah.
Dude, that's unbelievable.
I'm still swimming. What happened to me?
Yup. 5.3. Sorry for freaking out. My first fish of the year. There we go. That's a big fish. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes! 414 though. Gee. Not too shabby. Absolute donkeys.
Fishing.
We're here. How the hell is everybody doing tonight? Welcome back to Reel Nothern Bass Talk. Hopefully everybody is having a wonderful week in this warm weather. We're here to talk about kayaks tonight. We're joined by a longtime friend of mine, Jake, from out in the Midwest. Jake, say hi.
How you guys doing?
We're going to cover weekend fishing report, both from our perspective and Jake's perspective out there in the Midwest, and then we're going to roll right into it from there. But in the meantime, Jake, go ahead and give him the quick 30-second rundown of who you are, what you do.
All right, sure. My name's Jake. I mostly post on Instagram, a little bit of TikTok, but I do a lot of kayak fishing. To be honest with you, I just like fishing. I do stuff from the bank all the time. I have no shame in beating the banks. But my primary focus right now is kayak fishing. I've been doing it for the last 6 to 7 years, and I just like the simplicity of it, to be honest with you. So that's kind of my thing.
You say simplicity, but how many kayaks have you been through now?
Well, I have 2 right now. I've been through 4, but
Oh, geez.
I have a simple one, and then I have a, let's get serious kayak.
Love it. Real quick, 603 Living. I'm going to get the online store restocked with everything that I have by the weekend, is my plan. Mostly for hats. All I have for t-shirts at this point left over are extra large and 2XLs. And I am looking to liquidate those and move them ASAP, rapido, because we want to do one of these. We want to do our own Reel Nothern Bass sun shirt. That's next on the list. But I can't do that until I clear out the rest of my inventory, so that's the plan. Weekend fishing report. Let's go first. You didn't go fishing this weekend. You went solo.
I went bank fishing.
Oh, you know what? I just assumed you brought out the SSPOS.
I was going to, and I kicking myself for not doing it, but
Then you did pretty good from the bank.
yeah, I did all right. I think I got 3. 2 of them were actually all 3 of them are pretty much back to back to back. And then I took my phone out just to try and make a clip. So I set it up on the log I was standing on. Didn't get anything after that. Son of a bitch. Come on.
It's like when we go live every time. We're on a school. We're like, we should go live. I'm like, no. Because literally every time we do that, the bite dies. We're not doing that.
Literally every time it does. We get 2 and then it'll be over with.
That's just how it goes every time.
But yeah, they were up shallow in timber.
Not bad.
That's all I can
Southwest
say,
New Hampshire.
really. There's nothing, Yeah.
Dead center, southern New
dead
Hampshire.
Center, southern New Hampshire. Right on the Mass border.
There you go. I myself went out with our buddy Nate Saturday. We went back to the same place we were at last weekend, Andrew and I. We caught all those crappie. That video will be up on Friday, by the way. I actually have a lot of editing ahead of me tonight. But what we found was initially good. Water temps went from 47 to 48 that we saw on Sunday to like 51 to 52. And I had a really, really good feeling. Weird thing, all the fish that we found the ones we caught were shallow. I got 3. Nate didn't get anything, but he's a swimbait fisherman only kind of guy. So like it was a grind as it was. He did get bit on the Citizen 6, and you could see the lip marks just behind the hook.
Oh, of course.
So
Always.
he's slow on. He's like, I got one. And he's just like waiting. It must have been 3 full seconds. Then finally reels into it and gives the hook set. Nothing. He's like, pulls it up. He's like, yep. And holds up the bait. And see just perfect teeth marks on the back of it. So the thing just came up and grabbed the tail and didn't want to go any further. But even with those warmer temps, very first cast, I caught, I don't know, 2 3/4 pound largemouth maybe. First freaking fish on the jig since December. Really, really weird season to begin with. And then I got 2 more in the Ned rig. One was up shallow again. So both my fish were in like 3 to 4 feet of water on rocks. And both of them were like right at the beginning of steep banks. And then I got one more. We're working down another like submerged point, and it's like 6 feet at the top. It's all rocks. And it just breaks off fast on either side. And it's 15 feet on the main lake side and like maybe 9 or 10 feet on the other side of that. And I'm going in and I'm looking at 2D sonar and live. And I see the fish on 2D sonar. Then I fish the other one on live on my active target. And they're like literally the bank comes down, and right as it flattens out, right in that little cut right there, that cusp, they were hanging right there, right on the outside edge of a boulder. So it's like, So I'd already spot locked. I just grabbed my Ned rig and I dropped it down and worked it like a Demiki. I just held it 5 feet over his head. And all of a sudden I could see him, and you could see his tail and body coming up. I'm like, okay, it's a largie. And he gets right up on it, and he's just sitting there for like 5 seconds. I'm like, all right, maybe I'll just start pulling it away from him. I go to lift the rod, and the rod comes up, and the rod tip just stays. And just like, I'm like, oh, cool. It was only like 1.5 pounds. And then that was it. It was weird. Like all the conditions, you would think they would finally move up. Like we saw another guy out there, one of our subscribers, and he had found 54-degree water up in the shallows. Where we did the bigger and then the long skinny chin. Yeah, all the way back there.
I kind of figured.
Got a rat. But he did get a 5.2 pounder on the jerkbait. Kind of out a little bit further. So really strange. However, I will say, for anybody that's going out this weekend, with all this warming water, the warming trend, look stupid shallow. I have a really good feeling that wherever you go, with the exception of like these bigger bodies of water, you start getting in these smaller kettle ponds, you're probably going to be able to beat the crap out of the bank and probably have a good weekend, maybe with the exception of places that just iced out. Actually, I take that back. I don't know if it's going to be places that just iced out or places that have been iced out for 3 or 4 weeks now. Like one of those is going to play really weird, despite good water temps.
You may have better luck on places that just iced out, and with 80-degree temp, almost 90-degree temps, it's gonna. Could just push right up into like inches of water.
Yeah, you're probably right on that. Either way, I know where I'm going. Small little kettle pond Friday afternoon. Hope for the best. Sunday. Andrew doesn't want to go to New York, but I think I might convince him. A little twisting in the arm. I don't know. We're gonna see.
It's my last weekend with Mondays off.
That's. Just get used to it. I'm kidding. We'll probably stay in New Hampshire. I don't know. We have options. But anyway, so that's where we're at. That's what we found this weekend, at least on our end. Jake, how'd you do the last couple of outings out in your way? And just, you don't have to tell people exactly where you live, but kind of general area.
No, it's fine. Like I live in the Missouri-Illinois border area, so I fish both states pretty regularly. To be honest with you, this spring has been insane. Like not in a good way. It's been like one of the craziest weather springs I can remember. Like we had a really rough freeze early on, and then it melted, and we've been ice out since easily early February, which last year we were frozen until like, end of February, early March in some areas. But it got warm really quick. And like back in February, like I was catching like really quality pre-spawn fish. Like I caught 2 5-pounders on 2 casts, and that was from the bank. That was before I'd even like gone out in the actual kayak. And I was like, okay, we're gonna have early spring. Nope. We regressed back. It got cold again. The water went from almost 50 back down in the 40s for weeks and weeks and weeks. And honestly, like the Illinois side of things, fishing has been like kind of rough. Like I had one day last Friday that was phenomenal, and it was clear to me that like finally those fish had moved back in. I think I caught a 20-pound bag. My buddy caught a 25-pound bag, and this is all like in the typical Illinois reservoirs. And that was just best five. We both had like a combined bag of nearly 30 pounds of bass, and I was like, okay, it's going to turn on. Well, we got another cold front the last few weeks, and the fishing in lakes here has just been awful. However, the rivers have been on, and the smallmouth have been biting like crazy. Fortunately for me, I haven't gotten to benefit from that. But everyone I know that's been hitting like the Ozark rivers has been catching a lot of really strong, 20, 19-inch smallmouth, which is great for the rivers because that's considered like, not like a lake fish because they get real long in the rivers, but the 20-inch mark is like, that's your trophy smallmouth. So the rivers have fished really well. I caught my PB spotted bass, which is like a Midwest Southern thing. You guys don't have those up there, do you?
Nope.
No.
I wish we did, but
Yeah.
we don't.
Well, you might say that now until you get to a fishery that's overrun with these things. They're kind of like rock bass.
Oh, never mind. I don't
in
want
the sense that like
Get like a bunch of 1 to 2 pounders.
they're fun to catch, but like for instance, like this was a 16-inch spot, which you're like, oh, that's not that big. It actually was huge for a spot. It was nearly 3 pounds. I mean, his gut was like he had like a bowling ball in there, and that's what they're notorious for, is they just feed on everything. But I did catch like the biggest one I had ever caught, and it's just like a freak of nature. So I haven't posted it yet, but when I do, you'll laugh because it looks like he's like got a bowling ball in his stomach. But yeah, river fishing has been good. Like we've caught like all the fish have been up against wood. They're clearly like pushed in, ready for spawn in the rivers. I think the rivers are still in like the mid 50s because they take a lot longer to warm up around here than like the lakes. Our lakes are in like, the low 60s. So I gotta imagine in the next few weeks, the Midwest, at least in my area, is going to be full out spawn. I actually fished a bit today from the bank, and I saw some pretty shallow, which I'm pretty sure were some males starting to think about it. So I'm guessing in the next few weeks, it's going to be game on here. So
nice.
Well, hopefully, go out and catch a 4-pound spot.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right.
That's
Well, what's the world record? Isn't it like 11 pounds?
It's 11, something like that. California, though. And the lake spotted bass are a lot different. But, like, I don't know what it is about spotted bass, but, like, those things just, like, they're usually, like, they can get really long. Like, 19, 20 inches isn't that crazy, but their guts, they just eat nonstop. They're kind of like a smallmouth or like a largemouth with the attitude of a smallmouth.
interesting.
They, like, blow up like balloons.
Yeah.
They look crazy.
What's funny, you were talking about like length, right? So 19, 20 inches is a good trophy size smallmouth out your way. I would say the same thing for in New Hampshire or anywhere other than in the river, probably not. Like Connecticut River, Merrimack River, they're going to be a little bit leaner. If you go to Candlewood, you catch a 19, 20 inch smallmouth, it's probably going to be like 3 pounds. If you catch
What was the one I caught?
22 and a half inches, and it was just
22?
over 4 pounds.
Yeah.
It actually may have been longer. No, I think
It was 24.
No, it was 24 something.
24 inches.
And it was 4.1.
Or just over 4 pounds. Yeah.
Dude, it was
crazy.
like, we thought he had like a 5.5 in the boat. And then he turned sideways. We're like, where'd the rest of it go?
This is coming.
Yeah, a lot of these, like the river guys, they don't weigh a lot of their smallmouth, especially the kayak guys. Like when they do the float, typically they measure them, 20 inch. It's like, oh man, that's a trophy smallmouth. Because those river smallmouth here are real delicate, so they don't handle them a ton. I mean, some people obviously do, but like the smallmouth fishing around here is very much a protected sort of rite of passage in those rivers, because those rivers are real easy to just destroy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So
that's the thing. Like, I get why kayak people have to do it for their tournaments and stuff, but
yeah.
When people just use length as like, the end all be all for what they determine as a big fish, it bothers me. And my best example I'll point to is in a little over a year, I caught 3 fish that were exactly 22 inches long. One was 3.5 pounds, and it was about one of the sickest fish I've ever seen. It was a friggin' envelope. And then shortly after that, I caught a 22 incher that was 5 pounds, 5 ounces. And that was at a place I'd never been to, so it was fun to see that. And then shortly after that, at the end of that year, I caught another one, exactly 22 inches, was my PB at 7 pounds, 5 ounces. So at 22 inch fish, I've caught from 3.5 to 7.25.
19 and I caught that 636 I caught was 19 and a half inches.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah, I
wild.
think-
Like, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think it's true what you're saying, because it is wildly different. Because where I sit, so like one of the lakes I like to sit is like mid Illinois, or to go fish. That's northern strain. But if you move further south, there's like not quite a northern strain bass. I don't really know how to explain it, because there's not two strains. There's northern and southern, but like for some reason those bass in the middle of the state are just chunkers. And like I've caught a 6-pounder that was barely 20 inches, but like I've caught 20 inches down closer to me that were literally like 4 pounds. So it's crazy how wildly different it is.
Oh yeah, like again, if you catch a 20-inch smallmouth at Candlewood, it's probably going to be 3.5 pounds. You catch a 20-inch smallmouth in New Hampshire, especially Lakes region, you're probably looking at a low 4. You catch a 20-inch smallmouth in Vermont, and it, with the exception of Lake Champlain, it's going to be pushing like 4.5, 4.75. It's and like we can hit all these spots all within a day trip. It's crazy to see just how different they are, just from body of water to body of water, and that's all definitely within the same same region. But then
Yeah, I think it must have a lot to do with what they're eating, like the density of the fish.
How many fish are in that body of water and how much they
Yeah.
can like.
Because clearly those
jam down
smallmouth
their
that are
throat
just
in a short
feasting
period.
on gobies get huge.
oh my god, dude! When we went to Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence River, you're right. They're just the most dense fish we've ever caught.
Caught a
These
14-inch smallie that was what 2.5 pounds.
Yep. Dude, it was one of the fattest fish I've ever seen. 14
Insane.
inches, 2.5 pounds. I was like, all right. But yeah, it's just they eat this. They eat all those gobies. So it's just super dense, good food. So they just get built out like bricks. You
They
keep
live on a
catching.
treadmill.
Yep. 4 pounders we were catching. They're all like 18 inches. I can't wait to go back. I'm definitely going back this fall. That's my plan. Even if it's for only 2 days.
I go for 2 days.
I've been out there for last 4 years. I've been missed a year since our first trip. I'm not going to miss another one. I'm not going to miss one, period.
I did.
Jordan in the chat just caught my PV Smallie at Candlewood yesterday. 4.65 pounds, didn't measure, but looked like it should have been well over 5. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect example. I wanted to go there Friday. My plan was to take this Friday off and go down there, but work kind of blew up, so I can no longer do that. But if I'm lucky, I'll get a half day off and still be able to go out and enjoy the day. And then I get to guide John this weekend for an electronics lesson.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, we do offer that. We can do that anywhere. We can do New Hampshire, Mass, Vermont, Maine, doesn't matter, because we're not actually guiding you in the taking of fish, because we're not fishing. We're just out there playing with electronics. We do offer that. This will be our 3rd guided trip just for electronics, I believe. If you're interested, the option's there.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that. But at any rate, so that's your weekend fishing report, both from here in northern New England and the Midwest. So before we dive into the world of kayaks, Jake, go ahead and, now that everybody's here, reintroduce yourself, tell everybody where you can, where they can follow you and stuff, but even go a little bit further. Go back to kind of the beginning of what got you into fishing and what led to you where you're at now.
Okay, sure. So I mainly post on Instagram and YouTube. I do a little bit of the dreaded TikTok as well. It's literally just, that handle. But I've honestly been fishing my entire life. Like, my father is what really got me into it. And I started beating the banks from a pretty young age. And just like, I always wanted to get a boat. And I remember when eBay was first a thing, and that's really going to make me seem old, but like it was brand new. I remember we bought this inflatable kayak, and that was like my first foray off the bank into the water. And I started catching fish, and I was like, hey, you don't need a fancy bass boat to go out on some of these lakes. Well, it didn't end well with that. We ended up popping that and having to swim back to shore after a few trips. And it was all because like we found a spider in there, and the other guy with me freaked out, and his Texas rig caught the end of it. And once the air went out of it, we were all in the water.
Yep.
But I've been fishing my whole life, and we finally got a boat, and I used the boat for years. Like we still have it. I still take it out all the time. But I got into kayak fishing a little bit when I moved to Texas. It was really big down there. Especially like on the smaller rivers, and just like I lived in Austin, and Lady Bird Lake. It's a really calm lake. You could take your kayak pretty much anywhere out there. And like, I was always like in awe of like the monsters they pull out of there. because a lot of the swim bait guys, that's where they fish, and that's how I also got into like the swim bait game. And so when I moved back up here, obviously we had the boat, and like I started getting the itch to do the kayak thing again, and that's kind of where I am now. Is like it's just like I can't believe it's been so long. It's been like 5 years in the kayak in Illinois, and this is kind of where I am now. And I've always been a content guy. I make content. I mean, that's how we met back in the day. I wanted to make content, and I felt like kayak fishing at the time didn't have a lot of content makers. I mean, there's a ton now, obviously, but I got into that, and like I've been posting on Instagram. I originally was going to do YouTube, but I wanted to try something different because I've done the YouTube thing. Like I've done that song and dance, and I was like, hey, try Instagram, and it's been an interesting journey so far. We're still growing, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the TLDR for me.
There you go. It's funny thinking back to like when we first started playing together from our Battlefield 3 days from YouTube. And
geez, that's old.
Yeah, I mean, when did we first start playing together? Was that 2010?
I mean, it's like 2012, 2013.
Okay, yeah, you're right. No, it's a little bit later.
It's been all over a decade.
Yeah, seriously. But I remember we got talking, and somehow fishing came up. If we found out, we were both like, "Oh yeah, wait, you fish? You fish?" And it was great. Then I remember it came up somehow. Do you remember Squantoon? He was friends with Skyler.
Yeah, we still chat occasionally.
Do you really?
Yeah.
No shit. Yeah. Nice. And I remember I found out he was big into bass fishing too. We'd shoot the shit about a bunch of stuff. So it's kind of funny how many gaming nerds out there were big into bass fishing too. And then when I started the fishing channel, quite a few of those people came over.
Because it's something you can be good at and still get pissed off at it.
So, I don't know. I just elaborate a little bit for everybody watching and curious how exactly we came to meet just from our Battlefield 3 gaming days. Battlefield 4? Oh, I miss those days. Good old nostalgia.
Yeah, life was a lot simpler back then. It was before all, like kids and responsibilities.
Yeah, seriously. But all right, we digress enough. People are here to talk about kayaks, everything we can possibly bring up about kayaks. What I want to do, I'm thinking, is kind of run the whole gambit on it, but really also open up the chat to questions. That's usually the best way we kind of go about things like this. We have covered this before, but it's been a while. We last had one of our buddies on, Jake, and I want to be able to bring on somebody else that does things a little differently, because I know, you already talked about it. You fish a lot of streams and creeks and rivers and stuff, whereas up here, we really only have 2 rivers, and people pretty much only fish one of them. Other than that, it's all kettle ponds and big-ass glacier lakes. That's what people fish primarily up here. So it'd be good to have that different perspective for someone that fishes just vastly different waters from what we typically see up here. Plus, different region. It's always good. So I will put it to you guys in the chat. At any point you have any questions regarding kayaks, just start firing them off, and we will address them as they come up. But for you, Jake, I'm thinking let's kind of start at the beginning let's talk about what you already have right now for kayaks. You did mention you have 2, one much more simplified, one where you got pretty crazy with it. And as you're going through both, talk about pros and cons of each. What drew you to those models that you have?
Okay, sure. So just to kind of lay it out, I've got a paddle kayak and I've got a pedal drive kayak. And the pedal drive kayak is the lake kayak. Now, I will admit that I have a motor mount for a small electric outboard, basically a trolling motor that can go on either of them. I don't always use it, but I do tend to swap it between the two, just depending on what I'm doing. Like if I'm doing a really long float, like I will put it on my paddle kayak. But the float I did 2 weeks ago, I didn't even put it on there. But the pedal kayak is an Old Town. Topwater Sportsman is their new version of it, but it's essentially the same thing. And that one has the motor on it and the pedal drive. You can pretty much go wherever you want in that. Like it's the do-all kayak. The issue with that is it's definitely a lake kayak. I mean, you could take it on the rivers, but you've got to pop the pedal drive up anytime you go through shallow water, because you got to figure your pedal drive sticks up like that, and you've got to set it up to go through that. So that's an ideal lake kayak, but it's not great at going through the stream. So that's why I got the second one, which is a paddle only kayak. Now the pedal drive kayak, it has everything on it. I've had that one for 4 years now. This is, I think, my 5th season on it, maybe my 4.5. I can't remember, but I've had every single brand of graph on that at some point. I currently have a live scope unit on that one. Um, I've actually got the Garmin 106 SV on that one, so it's kind of overkill. I didn't realize how stupid it would look until I actually mounted it on there. And I was like, man, this is like the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but I also love it, because it's like this giant screen that you have on there. And I've got the arm where you can point it like that. Um, I've got an anchor wizard on that one, so you can like lock in place if you need to. And all that stuff you can take off. You can go as simple as you want. If you're going to go to like a small pond and you want to just have like your pedal drive, you don't have to have a motor. You don't have to take live scope. But that is like the typical like all out rig. If I'm going to go fish like a tournament or something, I'm taking that one with the motor on it and the live scope, and all the bells and whistles. And then like the paddle one, that's the simple one. That's the river one. Typically when I run that one, I've got my tackle crate with one thing in it, my motor battery if I'm running the motor, my GoPro boom, and I will take 3 rods. Usually I'll take a do-all rod, a jig rod, and then a spinning rod, which you can throw Ned rig, small jigs. I like to throw like the hybrid hustler in the rivers. Like I was throwing that yesterday. I lost like 2 of them. So
That's what I caught the fish on.
Nice.
3 fish on. Hustler.
caught a lot of fish on them. Actually, that was like the second most producing lure yesterday. So
It's
Nice.
crazy. We go from like using like the big regular just football head jigs, and then you go down to this teeny tiny little hustler and you catch giants on it.
Yeah.
It's friggin' awesome.
I've caught a lot of fish on that jig in the rivers. Biggest smallmouth I caught in the river last year was on that. So
Nice. Now, do you use you said do you have a turret of some kind for your active target? Or sorry, your live scope on your boat?
I do.
Like, what do you
Yeah.
have again? Because the one I saw one of our buddies use, is actually a few of them use it now, is the Sniper Marine thing. And it's cool. It's like a little like bike grip
Yeah.
like thing.
If Sniper Marine wants to send me one of those, I will gladly use it. However, it's $500.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to pay for one for my bass boat.
Yeah, I mean, on a
So,
boat, maybe, but like, I don't know. I just like, as ridiculous as my kayak is, it's probably dumb for me to feel so like resistant to that kind of price. But like, I'm pretty happy with mine. Mine's Fishing Specialties. It's made specifically for kayaks. I've had it for, this will be my second season with it. I had it the fall of 2021 is when I got it. So it's been pretty good. And I don't have like the new live scope. I actually just have the LV32 or whatever, the original one. And honestly, like I have no issues seeing the fish with it. So I will say a lot of people ask me about live scoping kayaks because they want to know like, how do I do it? Like I've got like the black box is mounted inside the hole, and then like the transducer comes up and then like right there by the edge. So if you look at the kayak to my right, I can direct it like that. And all the electronics are inside the unit with the battery, like inside the hole, that is. But the big issue that you'll run into with live scope in a kayak is you're moving. So like
yeah,
you're at more of a risk of like, if you're pointing towards the fish and you see it and you throw your drop shot out, if the wind's going, you've really got to understand where you're tossing, because you're going to drift out of there in literally like 6 frames. So that is one of the challenges of it. I know a lot of people have spot lock on their kayaks now, which helps a ton. I don't have that. But that's one of the realities of kayak fishing. You can't expect it to be like a bass boat. You know what I mean? So.
what?
Nothing.
Oh.
Brain just
All of a
went,
sudden, you're just like,
brain just went black for a second.
I
Sorry.
was looking about to my mouth to continue the conversation. You're like, what's that? The wind.
Yeah,
wait,
that must be a
no.
pain to. I just slammed that down. My bad. You don't have spot lock on it, huh?
No,
That's gotta be
I
a
mean, it is
pain.
something that is in the works eventually.
Was that intended to be a pun there, bud?
maybe just a little.
His handle on the old YouTube was In the Works Media.
Oh. Oh, hi. Idiot. I should have known that.
It's all good. Yeah, I know quite a few guys have gotten spot lock on their kayaks recently, and like I can't even begin to fathom how much better that must be in a kayak, because I have maintained, out of all the crap I have in my boat, and I have everything. The only thing I don't have is a second talon. Other than that, I have everything. Finally, at this point, And if my boat burned to the ground right now and I had to replace it tomorrow, my entire budget would be focused around getting the biggest, newest boat I could with the least amount of hours and a ghost. And then I wouldn't worry about anything else after that. I would backfill the rest as time went by. Because spot lock, to me, is better than anything else I've thrown on my boat.
It is. It's like
Just for a number of freaking reasons. And
Going
the fact that it's
from-
almost always goddamn windy.
going from your boat and then to my boat. I get on there, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have that. I'm poor.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I want. So they make a really good. The XI3 kayak version
Yep.
is great. The issue is that it will not fit on my current kayak. Because
That's a
it's
bummer.
kind of hard to explain, but basically, like with the way it comes up on the kayak, you cannot pedal it if your trolling motor's up. So that causes issues. So until I change to a bigger kayak, which I'm debating doing,
Do it.
I have to kind of just rough it. And I am a big offshore fisherman. Honestly, some of my best days last year were live scoping in the post spawn, 90-degree heat, sitting like in like 30 feet of water. So I've made it work for what it is. And I just have to imagine that if I could get spot lock, I could do a lot better. But I would maintain that it has made me better at using my electronics because I do have to actually compensate for that kind of like movement thing. So
Yep.
eventually
Right.
I will have
Takes-
spot lock. I'm thinking they actually make a kayak that is the big version of mine that has a built-in trolling motor that has built-in spot lock.
Really?
So it's basically a giant, it's a tiny boat
It's a mini bass boat.
at that point. Yeah.
I will say, like, I've enjoyed fishing offshore over the many, last, I don't even know, 10, 12 years. I've been really trying to focus on it, but it's just hard, especially on the bigger bodies of water where, like, I really want to do that. Because more often than not, you're either getting the crap kicked out of you from the wind or just the boat traffic chop on these bigger lakes is insane. So even if you don't, like, it could be literally not a breath of wind. And just the freaking chop from all the boat traffic alone will throw you off your spot.
3 to 4 footers.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I
having
mean, you won't
spot
see
lock
me
has been-
doing offshore in a kayak on, like, for instance, Table Rock. Like, I won't do that. There's no point because every 50 seconds, someone in a giant pontoon's going by.
Yep.
And like honestly, like no joke, last fall I was fishing Table Rock in a bass boat and I almost got thrown out by someone like right by us because Table Rock is like, with all the traffic out there, it feels like you're on the ocean. It's kind of insane. And I could never imagine trying to do that in my bass boat in the spots I like, or in my kayak rather, in the spots that we like to go to in the boat. So
My buddy Jake does it. He doesn't mind being in that rough water in his kayak.
Oh, Jake Anglis?
Yeah.
He's a different animal. Some of the videos he shared while he's out there in his kayak, like, is shit that I would question going out in my bass boat.
and he's
like,
just
dude,
out
what
there
are
in
you
his
doing?
kayak. He's like,
I mean, some of those kayaks, like, so my kayak is only 11 feet, but some of the 12, 13 foot kayaks, they can handle them a lot better. Like, I think Hobies do a really good job at them. Just kind of cutting the waves because you're so low that when you push over those waves, it's really no big deal. But you just gotta know what you're doing to do well in those, and like the room for error when you're out in those kind of things, when you're like a novice, is, I mean, it's really easy to flip when you don't know what you're doing. So.
Yep. No, I believe it. Okay, well, on that topic then, if you were to talk about a kayak for someone that fishes a lot up like our way, Lakes region area, and they're specifically only going to target big water, what would, in your opinion, from what you know, be one of the better kayaks that someone could look at? Whether you're just going to generalize it from overall size and width and everything, or if you have specific models in mind.
Well, I would say that if you're going to fish big water, you want 12 foot minimum. There's a lot of 13, almost 13 and a half foot kayaks that work really well. You could do it in smaller, sure, but I think most, 12 foot is kind of the magic number. I think if you talk to anyone about big water, they're going to typically be in two camps. They're going to say Hobie, which everybody knows is like the highest of the high. They're the most expensive brand. And then you've got Old Town, which is what I fish out of as my other kayak. like my main lake kayak. And Old Town makes the Spotlock kayak, which is the autopilot, and they have the 120 and the 136. And both of those are really good big water. Like for what, in my opinion, I think Old Town's kayaks are super, super stable. So like if you're taking that out into the chop, I think you have a pretty good chance of being okay, as long as you know what you're doing. I think the same is with like the pro angler from the Hobies. But truthfully, like I think a lot of it's going to come down to experience and comfort. Like if you are really comfortable in a kayak, you could take any brand, maker, model out there and probably do okay. But I really do think like the 12-foot and higher, if you're doing big water, that's kind of the magic number.
Nice.
The
All right.
13.5-foot kayak is
A lot of those are trailers.
pretty
They don't.
big.
Some people will put them in their cars. Like I've got a bed extender that I put my 12-foot kayak in. I can never imagine going to 13-foot in the Tacoma. So I probably have to get a trailer.
That would stick out of your bed 10 feet.
Yeah, or you'd have to get.
I mean, because I only have a
a
5-foot bed, so you're looking at
Right.
like 5 plus you're looking at like at least 6 feet sticking out or more.
You'd have to get one of those things that you put in your trailer hitch that extends out and then comes out
Yeah.
a little T-bar
Yeah.
out the back. Actually, that might not be a bad idea. That'd be pretty convenient.
Gotta throw it in your roof. Put a cap. Get a cap.
I used to
Yeah.
I used to rooftop my kayak on my Wrangler, and I did it for a couple of months, and I was like, nah, can't do this.
Those
and
things are
then-
pretty heavy, though, aren't they?
Then I was like, you know what? We're getting a truck, so we traded it in for the Tacoma, and like it's been amazing. So
Hell yeah.
It's funny because I'm in the market to buy one right now, too.
Tacoma? Yeah.
Yeah. I might go take a look at one on.
highly recommend.
I've
I
had 2 of them, and I loved them both.
almost got one, but I'm too damn tall, and it kind of feels like I'm
Yes.
sitting in a car.
Yes,
That's the only.
that is a
downside.
downside. I'm tall too, and like I'm 6'3", and like sometimes I feel like I'm like really,
Yeah.
especially when the kids are in the back. It's like, man, what was I thinking?
Well, that was the biggest thing, and like, so back in August, I finally bit the bullet. I traded in my 06 Tundra, and I got a 2022 Tundra, and I looked at just the regular extended cab, and when the seat was like all the way back, I'm like, I literally could not sit behind that seat. There's not enough room for my legs to go just in there, period. So I ended up getting a Crew Max, and there's like, it's stupid how much room there is in that. I looked at the Tacoma again. I'm like, nope, I can't. It's too small. I just can't. Not with kids. There's just too much stuff going on. I can't deal with it. Plus, that thing
Well-
gets up and goes, even with the boat behind it.
I was gonna say, I think
It
like if you're
does.
pulling a big bass boat, like you're probably better off with the Tundra, anyways.
Only for stopping. The Tacoma has plenty of power to tow even a 21-foot boat that's fully loaded out. But when it comes to stopping, it's a bit of a different story. You don't, 20 foot and up, you're starting to really toe the line if you're
You
getting.
need to get 18-inch wheels on there, not for the looks, but for the size brakes you're going to be putting on that truck.
Yeah, seriously. You need to weigh that thing down. You're going to have more weight in the boat pushing your truck trying to stop.
Right?
It's like one of those
Like,
videos.
remember that one time?
Oh my God. Yeah. No, mistakes were made.
I'm just like, here we go. I'm going to die.
Well,
did see-
I rode in a van a couple weeks ago of a guy pulling. He was pulling a small bass boat, like a 19-foot bass boat with a van, and he was dropping me off somewhere. And it was honestly the scariest thing I think I've ever done.
Oh
I
my
wasn't
God.
sure I was going to live.
Like a caravan or like an Astro
Yes.
van?
Yeah, and it's crazy because those vans have the same engine as the Wrangler and the Chryslers or whatever.
Mhm.
And he's like, "Don't worry, I can handle it." I'm like, "Okay."
I remember
Jesus.
before I bought my Tundra, my first pickup, we had an old 88 Bass Tracker, and it was a fiberglass one. And then I got in an accident towing it. I used my wife's Highlander for it all the time. And I got rear-ended, turning off of a main road. It flipped the boat over onto its top cap right in the middle of the friggin' highway and totaled it. So we ended up getting lucky, and we found a 94 Ranger 488 VS, which is 20.5 foot. Old Ranger, thing's heavy as hell. My wife's car couldn't do it. So there's a few times where it's like I'm calling like Josh, our buddy. Like I was like, him and I are fishing together all the time. I was like, dude, if you want to go, I'm good to go whenever, but you got to tow it, unfortunately. And he had that
an
Jeep
all-wheel-
Wrangler.
Oh, the
There was
Wrang-
when he had the
black
Wrangler. Oh my God, dude, that was like I thought my wife's Highlander was bad. It had the nut for it. Like the motor was fine, but it was just this little, kind of smaller Jeep towing this giant ass Ranger behind us. Every bumper's like.
So I've pulled
I
my
mean, that was
boat in the
big Jeep.
Ranger, and I've pulled my boat in my Wrangler, and it was dicey, especially coming out of some of the ramps we have around here get really muddy. That was the worst part, is like trying to pull those boats out of the ramps with the Wrangler. So
Oh yeah.
I don't miss it.
I don't.
I liked it, but I don't miss it.
So Ben had a good question. Best overall propulsion system: Bixby style, bow mount, or pedal?
I don't like Bixby's. There's nothing wrong with them if that's what you get.
have no
I
idea what
personally
that
think
is.
that if you're going to get a Bixby, you might as well just get what I have, which is a Torpedo / Newport. I have a Newport, but essentially the same thing. It's like an electric outboard. It's basically, it just looks like a trolley motor, but it's like on the back and pushes you forward. Bow mount if you want spot lock, and honestly, like pedal if you want to just be natural. But I mean, you can have pedal and all of those other ones listed. So like, I don't think pedal is mutually exclusive to only having pedal. However, you can do anything you want to do with pedal drive. Like I can go 4 miles an hour without breaking a sweat in my old town with just
God
the pedal.
damn,
It's actually pretty quick.
that's really
Yeah.
quick.
And like honestly, like pedal's great. Like personally, if I want to say like what's the ultimate setup, you want pedal drive and like some sort of electronic point A to point B propulsion. Either that trolling motor can do that if you want spot lock, or you can have like your Bixby style / Newport / Torpedo, which are all essentially the same. So
All right. Kevin, another question. I have the fear of God. I'm going to flip over every time I get in a yak. Is there any way to overcome this?
no,
Just keep doing it.
I'll be honest with you. You want to know how many times I've flipped? Zero. And I've been kayaking a lot. Now I'm probably going to jinx myself. I'm probably going to flip the next time I go out.
Sure you strap your eyes down.
But I think that you just need to be prepared. I always carry a dry bag with a set of clothes. Actually, I just posted a story talking about why you need a dry bag on the river. I think that if you're really feeling nervous about it, you need to limit how much gear you take too. I have a rule where I don't take more than 2 expensive combos. Everything else is kind of like my lower end stuff. Like I tend to cycle through them.
Yep.
Just because like if I took so I have like 3 NRX rods. If I took 3 NRX rods out on the kayak and flipped, that's more than a kayak.
I was gonna say, that's like $1,500 worth of rods gone in one shot,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yep. So like I have a rule: 1 NRX, 2 NRX tops, and then like you take your. I have like what I call river rods too. It's just my older stuff that kind of beat up, but honestly works fine, and I take that with me on the river because on the river, your chances of flipping are exponentially higher because some of the rapids I go through, I'm just thinking like, man, this is really dumb. I got all this stuff behind me and I'm going through this chute. Like yesterday I went under this chute that went under a low water bridge and I had to get all the way flat going like 6 miles an hour under this bridge. So
Holy crap.
like I don't put any rods up in the back on the river at
quick.
all. Like I lay them all flat. So
6 miles an hour. That's like a quick idle. Like
well,
Yeah, no,
so
it is.
usually
at
on
max,
the side scan, I'm going usually in between 6 and 7.
on my Shoaly with max power all out, it will hit just under 7 miles an hour. I mean,
Yeah.
my Shoaly sits like this in the water. That's the paddle kayak with just the motor on the back.
Damn.
So
That thing's cooking.
yeah,
You say just over 7,
just under 7.
just under 7. That's still
Yeah, I honestly think
good.
if I weighted the front a little bit more, I could get I could juice it a little bit more. They also make a 36-volt version of my motor now, which I
I'll
guarantee
get it.
you
You'll
could hit
go
7 with that.
14,
Dude,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
right?
I've seen that some people in their big giant Hobies are hitting like almost 8 with it, and those things are like 150 pounds.
Yeah, those Hobies are no joke.
Yeah, they're heavy.
Yeah.
I picked one up before, and they're
They're good though. They're a
not
great
light.
fishing platform.
So you had talked about what you have on your boat. What did you cover what you have for a battery in there?
Yeah. So for my motor, I have a 24-volt, 50 amp hour amped outdoors battery, which is a lithium. If you're going to be kayaking and you're gonna have battery, you're lithium. Don't mess around with lead acid. You don't have time for that. It's just too damn heavy on a kayak. Like, I mean, sure, if like you're really budget oriented, you could get away with it if you already have one. But for the most part, I'm all lithium. Far as my electronics, so I obviously record everything I do. I have a 10 amp hour that powers my GoPro, charges my phone. It'll do the front GoPro. It'll do the lights if I hook them up. That sits in my box behind me with the battery for the motor if I'm running the motor. And then inside, I have a 30 amp hour lithium that runs the live scope and the graph. And that's dedicated to just simply that unit there. So it may seem like there's a lot of batteries, but in reality, like you don't need to record. You don't need the extra lithium if you're not recording.
Yep.
And if you're not running a motor, you're obviously not taking the heavy 24-volt battery. So I think lithium really helps kayakers actually make this dream possible, because like I can't imagine having lead acid on those boats. Like it's just, I don't see how we would do it.
No, I mean the AGMs that I have in my boat, I have 4 of them, 2 for the trolling motor and then 2 for all my electronics, which is kind of overkill now, but the one I had in there wasn't quite giving me enough power on tournament day. But the last hour we had to start shutting graphs off because we were running pretty low on juice and motor didn't really want to turn over. I don't have to worry about that anymore. But I mean, those batteries I have, I think they're 73 or 74 pounds each.
It was, yeah.
Those Duracells,
Yeah.
they're great.
Yeah,
But
I have
that's
5 of them in my boat.
yeah, your boat's
I mean,
a
I
lot
can't
smaller,
run
too.
my, I've never run my motor battery dry, and I have put it through some stuff. I think I could easily get a full weekend out of my battery if I fish both days out of the motor battery. I have run the live scope unit out quite often. I really do need to upgrade that particular thing. I learned the hard way that the live scope box actually draws power 24/7, so you need a kill switch for that.
Yep.
And I was doing some pretty important fishing one day, and I was like, why is this not working? And I actually had to go in there and like rewire stuff on the fly, turn my GoPro off. I converted that to the live scope box unit, and it worked out, but it was like a giant pain in the ass.
I bet.
But yeah.
I just realized I forgot to shut off the breaker on my boat from last trip out, so it's probably dead right now.
Yikes.
Yeah, so I had my active target with an HDS 16 live installed on my boat. Actually, this was back in December. I thought it was January 2nd was our first trip out with it, but that's not true. We were down in the Cape the very end of December we had it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was like, yeah, you got to put the breaker in there, because he explained that to me. I was like, oh, sweet. And we went out fishing 2 weeks ago, and I forgot to flip it. And I was like, oh, you know what? I might as well plug in the boat for the last 3 hours before we're going fishing. And open the back. I look at the charger. I'm like, huh.
Something wrong.
Trolling motor batteries are about 2/3 full, but those other ones are blinking just one little red light. It's like, shit.
Whoops.
He got to my house. I was like, buddy, we might not have any electronics today, but we did.
I really
Yeah,
need to
we
get
did.
like a 50 amp hour for my electronics, because truthfully I could do that and just go a full weekend. Like if I'm in a tournament, like literally just you go both days and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And even if you have you could go all week on that charge, just after work trips or whatever,
Right?
if you're fishing throughout the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, because charging the kayak batteries is a pain in the ass, because let me tell you, do not charge that battery inside the kayak, because have you ever seen like the horror stories of the lithium blowing up in the kayak? It melts that it just melts it. It's gone. The kayak's gone.
Oh, no.
Jeez.
So I always pull
Jesus.
mine out
mean,
and charge them, because like
It's
I just
lithium, so it's not heavy. It's not like it's gonna be a pain in the ass to pull it out like pulling them out on a bass boat.
and
if
they
you
make
don't
some
have a
really
charger.
cool lithiums now that are like, have you seen the flat ones that are like tall and they slide like perfectly inside your kayak? So
Really?
I haven't seen that. No.
yeah.
That's cool. It displaces the weight a little better.
I'm trying to think if
Yeah.
I saw that when I was at
So
the
instead of
Miami-
making them like, your typical like little rectangle, you've got these ones that are like flat, and they have the same power. They just design them slightly differently, and they're actually quite convenient for like kayaks, or if you even want to save space in your boat.
Something that
I
can
know,
just kind of slide under your seat or something.
yeah, one of my buddies who has an older boat has one of those mounted in the front for like his front graphs and stuff like that, and it's just purely dedicated to that. And he's got like a slot, and it literally just slides right down in there. It's kind of crazy.
That's pretty damn convenient. I'm trying to think if I saw one like that when I was at the Miami International Boat Show for work back in February, because our booth was set up right next to Battleborn. And I had an interesting conversation with them. Not as good as I had hoped for, but certainly not a bad one. Trying to swing something there. And the plus side to what I learned about those too, for us northern anglers here, pay attention. The one thing that sucks about lithiums is they will not charge if the core temp gets below 32 degrees.
Yep.
Battleborn, and there might be other companies, I haven't looked. I just know for a fact that Battleborn has an internal charger on it, or a heater on it. So it's just like this little, I don't know, like
In the batteries?
yeah, in the actual battery. So you basically just hot wire from your positive into this like little stud.
Just swap the polarities.
And-
It'll get hot.
That'll do it. But you just basically like a little hot wire off the positive into this like little stud that threads in, and that gives just like a teeny tiny amount of power that goes this coil that wraps around the whole thing. And I believe there's a sensor in there. So when the core temp dips down below like, I don't know, 40, it activates that and it runs off of itself. So you are kind of killing your batteries. But if you already have them plugged in anyway to your onboard charger, you're just feeding it, you're constantly charging it anyway. And then that little internal heater kicks on and it never lets the internal temp drop down below 32.
That scares me.
I like the idea of that. And Battleborn's a really well-known company. So they're just really expensive. I did the math.
Things can go wrong.
Yeah, things
You're
can always go
burnt,
wrong.
You can walk outside and your boat could be...
That's what
Ash.
really good insurance is for. Really good insurance.
I've actually got my kayaks, both of them insured, because I realized that I have actually been rear-ended while carrying my kayak, and like I realized like, yeah, I really need to have insurance on these. So
Yeah, not a bad idea. Real quick, I saw it there. Brendan, thank you very much. New channel member. Appreciate you. While everybody else is here, if you are interested, you go down in the video description below. You can do any one of a number of things, like one, becoming a channel member. There are perks that come with that. In addition, anybody that's willing to donate, we are always accepting. No pressure, though, but Venmo and PayPal are down there. I really hope I updated those. Anyway, aside from that, if you guys haven't done so, I forgot to ask this earlier in the beginning of the stream, but, there's 64 of you and only 23 likes on the stream. Do us a favor, drop a like on the stream, please. Helps more than you think, and we greatly appreciate you guys doing that for us. I'm trying to think. There was another question that I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
I did see David Roy's comments. If I flipped my kayak and lost my gear, I'd probably set the entire lake on fire and take up golf.
well, I know somebody who lost a $400 combo on Monday flipping their kayak. So
Ooh. I can tell you right now that Dave, any bass addict here, just his
He would
reels
quit and
start
go
at
golf.
$400 each.
yeah, I've got some. I'm honestly like probably the stupidest angler known to man, because I like high-end gear, but I also like kayak fishing, and they don't really go together if you think about it. Like not at all. And like, I've got like my mega bass rods and obviously my InterX's, and like I realized that like all my main reels are like I've got 2 Bantams, a Metanium, and like I've actually got 2 Metaniums, and like that's where I started to be like, I probably shouldn't be taking my InterX on the river, because like, am I stupid? Like, I'm not getting that back. So.
Well, I'm curious. As a kayak angler, like, so you have your boat insured, where your kayak insured, and then I know that insurance, at least in a bass boat, extends to the equipment that comes with it as well. But I don't know if that extends to rod and reels. I think that actually comes under your
does.
homeowner's insurance.
So that's actually how we have it set up. I've got a whole list of the rods and reels. However, there's one really bad part of that. I'm pretty sure from what I've heard, it's really tough to file an insurance claim when you lose them to the bottom of the lake.
Like if they break or something.
If they break in like a car wreck, you're good to go, because you can like, here's this
definitively have
here's this melted Metanium, please pay me.
Just
But when it's at the bottom of a lake, you can be like, well, sorry, it's down there in Table Rock Lake. You can go get it. But you know what I mean? Like, apparently that is like the big stickler for insuring rods and reels. However, like if you flip and like your Garmin gets toast, that's covered from like the
that's
water.
good.
Yeah. Assuming that it doesn't fall off.
What happened?
Like right. So like if you got electronics on your kayak mounted up and you flip it over and there's water
And they get
intrusion, they get fried. They're still attached to the kayak, so they'd be covered.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, you know what? I would go back to the insurance company and be like, hey, I flipped my kayak. I lost like $3,000 in rods and reels. I'd like to put a claim in. They'd be like, well, how can we be sure? Well, lucky for you, I have the exact GPS coordinates. So you can either pay me for everything or you can hire a scuba diver to go down and get them. Either way, I'm fine. It's resolution of the problem.
Well, on the bright side,
cost the same.
I record everything, so I should be able to grab the SD card and say, "Here you go. Here's me taking a dip in the water, and there goes all my stuff."
Yep.
So,
You know what's funny? Just you saying I record everything reminded me of something. In the state of New Hampshire, if you catch a state record bass, there has to be a witness to the catch in order for it to count. And there's a lot more that goes into it after that to validate it and make it count. But one of the biggest sticking points that I'm not sure most people know is that there has to be a witness. It says that as part of New Hampshire state law or rules, regulations, whatever you want to call it. There's got to be a witness. So I got curious about that. I was like, I mean, as much as I'd love to catch a state record, the chances of that are extremely slim. But in the off chance that I'm alone and I'm recording, well, that counts. I sent that email to New Hampshire Fish and Game, and they're like, actually, yeah, as long as you have video proof uninterrupted from the cast through to the whole landing process, then that would count as a witness. I was like, oh, that's neat. That's good to know.
So a cast to catch video counts as.
so how does that work? Like when
Pretty
you
much.
weigh it, do they just trust your scale?
No, so you can bring your scale to the New Hampshire Department of Weights and whatever, I forget. And there's only certain models, but they will run it through like, their calibration and everything, and they'll certify it and they'll give you a little sticker on it. Now, where it's a transportable scale, I don't know how long it's good for, and I think there might be additional stipulations as to like how it's transported. And then I'm assuming that even if you met all that, after you weighed a fish and verified it, they would probably still need to go back and re-verify your scale anyway to make sure that, like, okay, yeah, we did calibrate it, everything's good, but we have to double check again. Aside from that, in New Hampshire, if you catch a suspected state record largemouth, you either need to find somebody that has a certified scale to bring to the lake to you, or you have to kill the fish and bring it somewhere with a certified
You gotta
scale.
kill it anyway, don't
See,
you?
Just if you're going to remove it from the body of water and transport it, it has to be dead. That is New Hampshire state law. Any fish that you transport has to be dead.
I think that's. I'm gonna do it. Fucking retarded.
It is.
I've thought about that a lot because there's a particular lake that I have that I know has like double digits in it because, that's where I've caught my biggest fish. And like, I've always wondered, like, if I caught a state record, would I be willing to burn arguably the best lake, in my opinion, in the lower part of Illinois to get that state record? And then everybody's going to show up there. Or do I just let it go? It's one of those things. Because like the state record in Illinois is kind of bogus anyways. It's like, I think it's like 13.5 pounds, which did not come from this. Like it's pretty well documented that guy brought it from Florida because like people just don't catch fish that size here.
Yeah.
And like it was so weird because like that guy that holds the record had just gotten back from vacation in Florida, and everywhere up there was iced over, except for this one little pond that he found that he claimed he caught it in. So there's a lot of debate. If you ever want to read some like pretty hilarious stuff, the conspiracy theories about the Illinois state record is insane. So,
Well, I know in New Hampshire, the story goes the same, but not quite that severe. Massachusetts is the same. Both states, state record says it was caught here. Everybody says, no, it was caught here. And for that same reason, nobody wants to blow up the spot.
yeah.
I'd have to really think about it. I would really have to think about it. Like the idea of having a state record to me, boy, I've been chasing that my entire life. That would be really hard to pass up, but I guess it would depend upon where I caught it. Like if I caught it in the lakes region on any of those lakes, dude, I wouldn't even bat an eye.
I would blow that spot up.
Goddamn right. Like, dude, if it came out in Winnipesaukee, damn right. I will. These are the exact GPS coordinates of where I caught this
See that
fish.
rocket is right behind that.
Fuck that lake.
I hate
The
that
lake's
freaking
the lake's not bad. It's the people. It's the people that both make and destroy a place. And unfortunately, Winnie just sucks because the people suck.
There's so many people on there. Like you're saying, though, like the boat traffic on a kayak. If you went into the middle of the Broads on a kayak and you've never been on a kayak, you'd probably just drown.
Yeah, oh my
Like,
God.
straight
yeah.
up, you would just drown.
So they actually did a pretty big. I think it was Hobie did one of their tournaments on Winnipesaukee, not last year but the year before. And I was watching some recaps, and it was wild. It was about this time actually. It was like whenever the smallmouth were spawning. So it might have been like May, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, April, May, yeah, in that area. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was either May or June. Smallmouth were still in beds, and like I watched a recap, and literally it was like people were like already out there pleasure boating, and I'm just like, wow, this lake is kind of insane.
New England's kind of insane.
Yep. Oh, you know what? All right, there's actually 2 more comments I saw that I really want to talk about. Where was the okay? First one, this one, Michael. The Massachusetts largemouth record is 15. Change. Complete BS. I think it's 15.5 pounds, which is stupid because
15.8. Yeah.
New Hampshire's is 10.5. Maine's is a little over 10 as well. Vermont is also 10.5, or it's 10 and change. Connecticut is, I think, 11 and change. I'm trying to think. Rhode Island, I think, is like 11, something like that. Like, they're all pretty close to each other. And then all of a sudden you get Massachusetts at friggin' 15.5, like a heavy 15. And it's like, the first time I saw that, I remember thinking the same thing. Like, that seems kind of bogus. Like, there's no way. But now, having been down there, oh, there you go. Dave just said 15.8 through the ice. Mm-hmm. Their growth season is so much more extensive than anywhere else in New England, like, period, that I can see it. I can really see it, and especially if you're talking about those lakes down there on the Cape, they get the herring run, which is just insane. Plus, it's lakes that get stocked with trout. Like, there is way too many.
And there's less ice, so the ice fishermen aren't going to be plucking them out and killing them every winter.
Correct. Yeah, like, you runs rampant in New Hampshire. You guys are all selfish dickheads. So, like, I can see it. I could legitimately see that being the case for Mass. It still seems excessive, but I wouldn't say it's, especially the time that it was caught, that it was that long enough ago that it's like, okay, I could still see it. It's towing the line. I will give you all that, but I can see the potential for that. So there was that one I saw, and then...
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to go and if I catch like a 10.5, 11 pound, a state record fish, I'm still stuck on that. I'm not going to kill it. It's the same age as me almost.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
I tell you what, because of how many friends we've made, friends of friends that we know, and then everything we've done with this, if you or I caught a state record here in New Hampshire, not a problem. It's going to go in the live well, it's going to hang, and I will be on the phone nonstop until I can get someone down there with a certified scale. Because I guarantee
the fishing game officer, but you get your ass here right now.
And they probably won't, but it's one of those, like, I guarantee you, within a couple of hours, we could find at least one person that is a certified scale that's transportable. They would get it down to the lake, we'd be able to weigh it. Mm-hmm. Now, then the question becomes, it depends on where I caught it. Would I really want to do it? Like, I can name, I will not name them, but between you and I, you already know 5 lakes that if we caught from there, there's not a fucking chance in hell.
I already know where the fish is. I already saw it.
We both know it.
I already saw it, and it's huge.
We both know where
and
two of them are.
I will never, ever, ever tell anybody.
No.
Like, if I catch it, it's going to be a picture, it's going to be a post, and I'm not going to tell you where it is.
Well, you remember, hang on real quick with the chat. Yes, Ray, I believe you. Texas is the only state that has it figured out. Their share lugger program is phenomenal. I wish New Hampshire would do something similar for smallmouth. That'd be friggin' amazing.
Do it for all bass.
But
all fish.
They just won't do it. But what were you just saying a second ago?
Being a selfish asshole, not telling anybody where I catch my fish.
Right, sorry. So I went fishing with Nate this weekend. And you remember the one I saw? Yeah. So we were talking about it, came up, and he was like, yeah, no, confirmed. Tyler was there at the same time, and he saw it too. And I was like, son of a bitch. Jesus.
Sorry about your ears. My friend's a dick.
So anyway.
Yeah. It's a tough thing to have it fixed, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I know a lot of people still don't want to kill the fish, even though it's a state record. But at the same time, people want to know, like, they want to be known as catching the state record.
Yeah.
There's people out there that catch that size fish in New Hampshire, and they just let it go. Don't tell anybody about it. It's just like like that old dude.
2 confirmed 10-pounders that I know of caught in New Hampshire in the last 5 years. No, sorry. The last one was 5 years ago. The other one was 9 years ago, roughly, give or take a year or two. And the older of those 2 was an older gentleman, long-time tournament angler here in New Hampshire. Guy was a hammer, knew his shit inside and out. And he was, at this point, I think close to 70. He was definitely well into retirement. And up on Squam Lake in November, Carolina rigging out deep, and he caught 10 pounds, 8 ounces. He tied the New Hampshire state record. Took a picture, weighed it, let her go. Didn't want to deal with it. Then there's another gentleman that caught a 10-pound, 4-ounce largemouth. I saw the pictures of the fish on the scale. Granted, it's that crappy Berkeley scale, so I am a little suspect of it. Then again, because of how inconsistent, I was going to say, with how inconsistent it is, that guy could have caught a state record. Well, instead of bringing it to the state to have it verified, he just straight up killed it because his scale said it was not a state record. So he killed it and stuffed it, put it on his wall. Fucking clown.
Why didn't he just get a replica?
Because he's an idiot. He's a shiner fisherman. He's an idiot. And I don't even care about saying that. That's just the fact of the matter. He's a fucking idiot. Like dude, it's a spot that's like, it's one of the worst, best kept secrets in the state, but nobody could have known about that. Nobody, right? And you go out there and you stick a fish that by your scale is within 4 ounces, and your immediate decision is, let's fucking kill the thing and stuff it in my freezer, versus, I don't know, maybe actually bring it to a certified scale to make for absolute certain within 4 fucking ounces.
Yeah, that's...
Or let the goddamn thing go, because you're the only person that's going to know it's there. You go back and try and catch it again. You already got it figured out with the shiner. Fuck that guy. God damn. I can't handle stupidity to that level, man.
Yeah. It's out
Dude, you
there
would hate it around
every
here.
day.
People keep everything in this area.
It's a problem all around New England. Although I will say Vermont does things a lot better when it comes to when you can keep them. They close it down a lot more.
I was hitting the banks about 3 weeks ago, and like I walk up to this guy, and he's like, "Hey, do you want this fish?" And I'm like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" And he gets his old, the metal stringers with the like hooks on them. He starts pulling it out of the water, and here comes this like 5.5-pound largemouth from this lake that's vastly overfished. Great spot, but vastly overfished. He pulls it out, and he's like, "Hey, do you want this largemouth? My freezer is filled with them." And I just kind of look at him like, "No, I don't want your fish." And so he takes it off the stringer and throws it into the lake. Fish is dead. Like, he killed it.
What the hell?
Because it was just on the stringer for so long. And so, like, I'm sitting here fishing, and here floats this 5-pound largemouth over to me, and I'm just sitting here thinking, like, man, this guy just killed this fish for nothing. Just because he couldn't, even though he had so much in his freezer, he couldn't get it through his mind that, like, maybe I should just put this back. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
like deer hunting. Your freezer's full and you still have tags, but you don't need to go out and get deer. Like, if you're doing it for sport, whatever, share the meat. But like, if your freezer's full and you're doing it for yourself, don't go hunting anymore. You don't need to. There's no reason to. Like,
I'm not even
against
Kyle
filled all his
fish.
tags. If Kyle didn't fill all his tags, but all his freezers were full,
he wouldn't go.
I almost guarantee he wouldn't go. He doesn't need to.
No, and that's the thing. Like, he does it just as much for the sport of it, but more
to feed his family.
And if his freezer's full, he's not going to go out and needlessly kill.
Right. No, he doesn't need to.
Unless he knew of another friend that was still trying to feed. But if it was one of those, his freezer's full and everybody else's freezer's full, he's not going to go out and kill anything.
No, there's literally no reason to.
No.
Don't kill the fish if you don't need to. If you ain't eating it, don't kill it.
Yeah. Boat potato, what'd you say? Vermont. Record small, even smashed over and over, never recorded.
I can.
Do you and I know the same person?
I can kind of believe it.
We know we have a friend. No, I'm not going to go down that road. Okay, anyway, moving on. Michael Bradley, you're rolling the dice if you eat the fish out of my river, the Hudson. Dude, you know what?
I wouldn't eat anything out of that river.
No, I don't even want to don't even touch it.
If I dropped a bottle of water in there, I still wouldn't drink that water.
See what's funny? We actually only went ice fishing like once or twice this winter. And one of those times we went to,
that is
boat
wrong.
potato.
That is wrong.
6-13 is pounds ounces. 6.13 is pounds decimal pounds.
It is 6 pounds.
Get it straight.
13.5 ounces or something like that?
Yeah, it's 13 and change. Yeah. But anyway, we only went ice fishing once or twice this winter. And one of the times we went was to see our buddy Travis, who is visiting from California, where he's currently stationed, Coast Guard. And we're out there, and he was with, I can't remember her name. She's wicked nice. It's the second time I've met her. But she's a fish biologist. And she was actually like measuring mercury in the fish in there. And so he brought that up. I was like, who are you with? He's like, oh, these guys I knew, this guy, my dad. And then I can't remember her name, and I feel really bad. But I only met her twice, in all fairness. And she's like, oh, and she's here. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember her. Nice. I was like, what's she doing here? Like, hanging out or kind of like working? She's like, a little bit of both. She's measuring mercury in the fish. You don't want to know what she's measuring. I was like, oh, all right. Maybe I'm not taking home any fish today.
Yeah,
And
I wonder if
that's
the
like,
mercury's. I don't know. It's weird how that.
dude, if it's bad in that lake out in the middle of nowhere with like what 15 houses on it,
It's bad everywhere.
it's got to be bad everywhere.
It's got to be the how much friggin' whatever rock or whatever is in the lake and just everything. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I only eat small fish in the summer. I mean, in the winter.
Yep. Boat potato. Oh, beers. Chinky. Chinky, non-racial. Mark, you shut up
Your nose
right
is
now.
looking fat.
He knows exactly what we're talking about.
Uh-huh.
All right, anyway, so we've been at this for a little over an hour. Is there anything else anybody wanted to ask us related to kayak fishing? This is kind of how the shows go, Jake. We do it like the little intro, and then we stay on topic, and then somehow we get off on a tangent at usually a pretty good time anyway, and God knows where the rest of the conversation goes. But it's usually fun regardless.
That's fine. Honestly, like that state record conversation we just had was something I was literally thinking about last night. Like if I caught one, I probably would just be like, you know what? Don't even care. Because like the spot where I think there would be one is a spot where I could never keep that fish alive because it's bank only. And I'm pretty sure that as soon as I like reported it, everybody would be there and it would just ruin the lake. That's
Yep.
where
I
I've caught
feel-
my 9-pounder 2 springs ago was at this
Good
lake.
Lord.
Jesus.
All right, I'm kicking him off the stream.
I honestly think I would be upset
Hey,
if I caught
I
the
caught
state
that from the
record.
bank, by the way.
See, I'm really kicking you off the stream.
On a frog in
Sick.
50-degree water.
Hell yes.
9-pounder. God damn.
I think I would be upset if I got a state record.
Yeah,
honestly think
I would have a lot of
Not-
internal dialogue going on. Like, I mean, like you guys said, if it was
Never
just
gonna
like
beat
a
that.
random lake,
Yeah, you will.
if it was just a
would-
random lake, I'd burn it. Like, who cares? You know, if it was like Table Rock Lake, yeah, I'm telling them where I caught it.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's what it comes down to. We already reiterated that point. It really depends on the body of water. There's a handful of lakes that, dude, I just don't straight up,
Pachanapo.
don't tell people where the current record is. The current record is from. It's one of those like if it was like handful of lakes I know of, nope, I'm taking pictures and video and I'm gonna let it go. And because that's the other thing with New Hampshire is they have to report the body of water it came out of, so it's gonna blow up. And I think that's the case for anywhere you go. But if it was a lake that was like towing the line of like, do I really want to talk about this? It's not that special, but it's kind of special. I'd box that fish and I would have I would send you to the store to buy me a 6-pack and I'd sit there and I'd drink through all 6 of them until I could figure out what my decision was going to be. Because it would not be easy. But if it were Winnie, buddy, I would start yelling for the nearest person on the shore. Who's got a bullhorn? I want everybody to know.
Pave it.
Pave it. Bill had a good question. Preferred kayak trailers. Actually, I did see somebody in the chat earlier said that they bought just a, maybe it was you, Bill, that someone just bought a snowmobile trailer for the kayak, and that works. And I was like, damn, that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah,
But
jet
anyway.
ski trailers work really
Jet ski
well.
trailer, yeah.
Oh,
That's not the only thing jet skis are good for is their trailers for kayaks.
Yeah, take them off and throw them off the side of the
Um,
road and take the trailer.
Honestly, you can convert a lot of standard trailers into kayak trailers. I personally don't have one. I am actually in the market for one. I'm starting the internal deliberations on which ones I want to get. The Malone ones are really good. They're super light if you want to like lean them against the wall. But a lot of people they just go to Harbor Freight. They buy the cheap Harbor Freight ones. They weld it in the spots where it's weak. They put some bunks on it, and they spend $500, and they have a trailer that is honestly serviceable. One guy I know drives across the country to kayak fishing tournaments with a Harbor Freight trailer. So
Nice. That's pretty mint. David. Oh, hey, David. It's been a while, buddy. What's your ideal rod length or even specific model for jerkbait fishing that you can work while seated in a kayak? Ooh, that's a good one.
So like specific
Something super short.
rod. I use a 610 Shimano X Pride rod for jerkbait fishing. I've caught a lot of jerkbait fish. That's probably my best technique. So I like 610. I'm a tall guy. I honestly think in a kayak you could probably get away with like 6'8" even. I just really like that particular rod, so that's the one I use. 7
Nice.
is like the sweet spot in kayak across the board, if you ask me. Like when I'm river fishing, I like to take a 7. I took a 7.4 with me yesterday, and it was really annoying. It was
That's just
fine,
too long.
but like
Especially when
on
you're
the
trying to, like,
river
sidearm
with
stuff.
a kayak, because like I do roll casts on the river, just under the brush, under the brush, under brush. I mean, you're just doing like 1,000 roll casts a day, and 7.4 rod, your wrist is just like, oh, about to like
can-
fall off.
It hurts.
And I was throwing a swim bait yesterday
jerk
on
baiting
it.
anyway.
Yeah, seriously.
Because I was throwing the Buka bull shad. I mean, I threw that thing for, I don't know, 4 miles. I committed to it. And, I didn't get-
Jesus.
Damn.
and that's a lot of river. Like I literally, like I caught some fish, nothing good. And I was like, you know what? My buddy caught one on the mag draft. I had caught some on the mag draft. I was like, I'm gonna throw the bull shad. I'm just gonna commit. 4 miles downstream, my arm's about to fall off. I had like 7 followers. I had the biggest drum I've ever seen on the river. Think about eating it.
That would have been
So-
fun.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that
would've been
sucker
intense.
was like, I don't know. He was at least like 28 inches. It was huge.
Andrew caught one when we were. So he's only been to Champlain a couple times. Every time we go, he's like, I want to catch a drum. I want to catch a drum. I've caught one almost every time I've been out there.
I wanted to catch a drum and I wanted to catch a catfish.
And you've accomplished both. But we were up there for 4 days in May of last year, and we're working jigs. We were killing them on jigs all weekend. And I think it was the 102 fish day. It was. It was towards the end of the day. And like all of a sudden he sets the hook. He's like, what the hell is this? And then the freaking Ross is like,
I'm like,
line takes off.
I
He's
can't
like,
do anything. I
oh,
can't
it's a
do
drum.
anything.
It's a drum. Like 15 and a half pounds, I think is what I remember. Fuck, it's a big drum.
Yeah, it's-
That is big. You know, it's funny to
large.
hear you say that because, like, around here, catching a drum is like, oh, I don't want that. You know what I mean? But up there, I guess it's a little rarer.
it's just
No, they're-
it's just a different species, and I like catching. If I see something, I kind of want to catch it.
Yeah.
Like at least once.
They're super common up on Champlain. It's crazy. I think Champlain has like 92 different species. It's 90 something.
96, I think it was.
96. It's ridiculous. We've been up there and we've seen gar and some big ones.
Yeah, like
Which how'd that feel?
like big long
Dude,
gar, not.
big-
Oh, we have
alligator gar,
giant.
but-
We have giant gar here. Those are the
Yeah.
swim bait stealers around here.
Oh God.
Oh boy.
But like
Yeah.
even the drum, you know, that they're everywhere. And I know guys will go up there and they'll hammer them while they're trying to get into all the friggin' largies and stuff too. Like they're just everywhere up there. But you know, for someone who's never caught one, like it's just always fun to get into one of those, you know, random fish, especially when they're like something like that that's strong and big. The first one I caught was on my tube rod with 10-pound line, and it was only a 7-something pounder. But it was maybe it was 8, I forget. But that was fun, just because it's something I never caught before. It's like, okay, I guarantee if I went out and caught 20 more, the novelty would wear off fast. So, but then for him to stick a 17-pounder is like, okay, they're not rare, but like that's a pretty special size.
a big fish.
15 pounds. Sorry, I think I said 17.
I don't care. I don't care what type of fish it is. 15-pound fish is on a bass rod is a freaking heavy fish.
Yeah,
I mean, I caught that 60-pound ray on my freaking frog rod.
I still can't believe you did that.
That was cool.
Kid's the king of non-target species fish.
I don't get it. I gotta, yeah, whatever. Touch
Wait.
for the weird ones.
So what was the last thing? Oh, okay, we just talked about that. Fishing game, body water. Oh yeah, Jason. So I think this has happened a lot. Catch a record and tell fishing game in different body of water. Yeah, that's literally the story behind both the largemouth and smallmouth state record fish in New Hampshire. The largemouth record out of Mass. I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, I don't think Vermont's are questionable. Maine, no idea. Connecticut, no idea. But I know New Hampshire and Mass.
Maine doesn't.
all their
They don't
suspects.
care about bass at all. They're all trout fishermen. They catch fish and they just throw them back. They don't even care about bass at all. That's why they're so that's why the water up there is usually so good for bass fishing.
True.
Those
can't wait to
northern
go up
Maine
there.
dudes, they couldn't give two shits about bass.
No, you're right.
Not at all.
Trout country. Actually, I saw Kevin in the chat. Kevin, we're still coming up. You were the winner. We're gonna get you out there and get. Oh yeah. Where you went with Kristen last year? And you've been dying to go back. You went in her boat.
Yes.
In Maine. That's where we're gonna go with Kevin.
Oh yeah, dude, it's gonna be fun.
And then Mark and I saw Kevin already answer you. Yes. With the exception of I think Missisquoi Bay, As of 2 days ago was the last time satellite imagery looked really, really good. I think there's a little bit of ice up there. Otherwise, Champlain is wide open, including where we'll be next month. Wait. Or at least I will be for 4 days. Maybe you for 2 days.
I might be
You
there 2
you,
days.
you got to get your truck situation sorted out by then. Or you're just going to have to come up with Nate or friggin' David. We've got multiple people
Don't
that want to
matter.
come up for the weekend.
David better not drive like a little bitch. You gotta get up there quick.
You
I want to fish.
Leave it at 2 in the morning.
We got-
Meet you at the
we're
ramp at
leaving
6.
Yeah, literally. I'll leave before that. I'll head up for midnight.
Yep.
I'll start walking. Meet you halfway.
Oh, also, really quick, Carla, thank you very much for the donation. Your mom's
Aw,
the best.
Ma, thank you.
Okay. Chat, is there anything else that you wanted to ask our kayak fishing friend here before he goes? And then, Jake, is there anything else that you wanted to cover that maybe nobody else brought up that you're thinking like, oh, shit, I kind of wish I brought that up?
Not that I could think of. I feel like we talked about batteries. I think that the gear storage thing maybe would be interesting because
Custom
like
storage. Have you done anything custom-wise? Or you
yeah, I
just
mean
kinda buy
honestly
off-the-shelf
like
stuff?
all of my stuff is custom. My crate is actually a modified Yak Attack crate, which is it's the older version, and I put hinges on it. And I've got mine so that I can store the batteries in there with my tackle. So when my lithium blows up, it'll kill all my tackle. No, but it makes it really easy because I can literally just take this crate, sit it in the back. I've got my tackle in there with my batteries. It's heavy, don't get me wrong, but then I can plug my motor in if I'm running the motor, and I don't have to worry about anything else. My GoPro plugs in there too, and like I'm good to go. But I've honestly had like a renaissance when it comes to gear. I have really pared down on what I take compared to how I used to. I used to take 8 to 9 rods, and now I really just want to take 5 or 6. And if I was on a boat with unlimited storage, you better believe I've got every single rod I own out there with me. But you know, when you're in a kayak, you have limited space. So like I've really like pared it down and made it more manageable, especially on the river. Like I said earlier in the show, I only take 3 rods on the river. And typically I'm taking 1 plano box. So it's kind of crazy to think about it. Like when you have a boat and you have access to all that stuff, you're probably thinking like 1 box, like that's like nothing. But
Yeah, but you fish it enough where you got it pretty much dialed in.
yeah,
You know what you need to bring for the situation for that day.
True.
So
and like I don't bring all my swim baits. If I'm gonna be throwing swim baits, typically I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a gill, and I'm like the Explorer gill, and I'm gonna take like maybe the bull shad or like a tiny clash, and then like that's it. Like I'm not gonna take $400 worth of swim baits out on a kayak. So I think that's the biggest mistake
that'd be too
anglers make when they kayak fish is they take way too much stuff. And honestly, like the less you can take, the better. Especially if you can like store it inside, because you can always put it inside the hole if you need to, and you can always pull over and get it out if you absolutely have to have it.
Is there rod storage like inside the hull of those things?
So on my paddle kayak, the river kayak, you can get probably 8 to 10 rods inside the hull.
Like underneath or like in the walls?
Yeah,
or
so like I have a modified hatch. So I open up the hatch and I've cut out like the cradle thing they had in there, and I can just slide them in. So a lot of times, like when I'm taking my river kayak, I put like 3 or 4 rods in there that I might want to use, and then I'll put 2 in my car, and then I'll start with the 2, and if I'm like, okay, well they're biting the jig on the spinning reel, I'll pull the spinning reel out of the hatch, tie a jig on, and use it like that. So this last float I did, I took 3 rods total, but I only took 2 on the deck and kept the spinning rod in. Well, when we stopped for lunch, I was like assessing the fact that I'd seen a million crawfish. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna get the hybrid hustler out. And literally, as we're eating lunch on the bank, I got it out, tied it on. I'm sitting there eating lunch on the bank, fishing from the bank. I caught one on the spinning rod, and it's like, okay, clearly bringing the spinning rod in the hole was the play. But that's like one of those like advanced ways to kind of milk getting a little bit more out of your day in the kayak, because truthfully, like you don't need to take all this stuff, but you do have options in there that can make you be a little bit more versatile when you need to be. So
Nice.
I like it.
it's a different way of thinking. I know, like coming from the boat world, you're probably like, man, but I want every single rod.
Well, that's the problem. It's funny because, dude, I have so many people that are like, you should go out fishing in my boat. I'm like, but that means I got to pick what I need out of my boat, and I can't do that.
I do fine with just 3 or 4 rods. But it's
because you have my whole boat full of shit you get to pick from.
It's true. That is true.
when I
I
order
don't bring-
stuff,
yeah.
I order for 2. And he's like, I kind of need this. I'm like, don't worry, I ordered extra.
He's
The
very good to me.
The day that he gets his own boat, though, it's gonna be great because I use all the money we make either to support the channel or we fill the boat with this shit. Anytime he needs something, I'm like, dude, don't even think about it, just take it.
I
It's
always
there
ask,
for the both of
though.
us.
I always do.
And the day he gets his own boat, he's gonna have to buy all his own Plano 3700s. But then, like, all my boat,
be
dude, my
fine.
boat's gonna run like 70. But
I'm
it's all the
hopefully I want to
shit
get
you
a
take out of it.
250 on like a 16-foot boat, and then I'll
Oh
be
my
going
God.
90. I'm kidding. That's not going to happen.
Standard.
I mean, that's another thing to consider too in a kayak. The more stuff you bring, the heavier it. And truthfully, like some kayaks, like if you're a bigger guy, you could hit that weight threshold on some of these kayaks pretty quick.
That's
And
true.
If you bring a lot of stuff, because like I'm like, I don't know, like $180 plus, my battery. That alone.
You're making me feel really bad about myself right now.
That wasn't
Bad
wasn't meant to be a dig, but I'm just saying, like me plus my battery, I think my Shoaly has a 450 weight limit, and like so me plus battery, that's half the weight there. And you got to figure I've probably got like 70, 80 pounds and other just miscellaneous. Like because I one of the things that I realized was really heavy is your dry bag full of clothes, because clothes are heavy, and I was like throwing it in there. I was like, damn, this is really just starting to add up, because I really had that thing packed down on Tuesday. Like I had extra paddle, extra life vest, which I highly recommend both of those if you're going on the river. Because it's something that a lot of people overlook is the extra paddle. You're like, oh, that seems like a waste. But if you can break down one and put it in there, because if you lose your paddle in the river, like you drop it, all right, it's floating down river. Or it sinks, depending on what kind you have. You're not catching it without another paddle. So like, how are you going to get back? And then you're just like, okay, well, I'm stuck here at mile 12 out of 20 or whatever you're doing, that's a long float. But like, let's say mile 5 out of 14. How are you getting to the end? Because you're not. That's why you got to have the second paddle. I like having the second life vest because you just never know. You just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, if
and
you
like,
flip and you're soaked and it's cold out, you want to change your clothes and get a dry life vest.
I fished with people who don't wear life vests, and it blows my mind.
I could never do that. If I was in a
If I was on a
kayak,
kayak, I'm
wearing it
And
24/7.
bet your ass I'm going to have it on.
So
Yep.
I've been posting a lot of clips from my last trip where I made a giant mistake. And I don't know about giant, but it was a bad mistake. I wore my automatic inflating life vest. I wasn't thinking, and I was just like, okay, I'm just going to wear this one. It's the most comfortable. I wear it when I'm on lakes. But on the rivers, when you're like getting out and dragging and stuff, like I'm pulling my kayak through this dam.
Gets wet.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I almost slipped. I actually posted the clip of me almost slipping, and I was thinking at that moment when I started to slip, I was like, oh shit, if I slip, this thing's about to inflate, and now I'm going to be like the rest of the day with the thing inflated. Because if you've never seen one of those inflate, it looks ridiculous. It's like you've got like,
guys, I fucked up.
I'm just like, how am I going to cast? Like, I'm probably just going to have to take this off. So. And I had made the mistake that day of not bringing the spare life vest. So,
Yeah, that would have sucked. Would have been funny though.
But yeah, paddle leash is a great idea as well. Like if you can get a paddle leash, that's great. I particularly don't like one.
Yeah. I did see one. I guarantee I know the answer to this one from Kevin. Do you prefer sit in or sit on yaks? Given that you're 6'3", I'm gonna assume that sit on yaks is the way
I had
to
a
go.
sit in yak. It was awful. Absolutely awful. If I can't stand in my kayak, I don't want it personally.
If I was a
I can
kayak,
walk
I
to the
wouldn't-
end of my old town in the summer when it's like warm and you don't care about falling in. You can't do that in a sit-in. Now that being said, like in the rivers, if you are truly a purist, the really good sit-in kayaks are always going to navigate rivers better. That being said, you pretty much only have your one rod and your limited tackle. So
Yep. All right. Boat Potato, do you think yaks should be registered? Yes. I'm answering that. Yes.
Yes, so they can
both
help
of
pay
mine
for
are
the launches.
registered because I have a motor. So I
Right.
had
So
no
you
choice.
have to be. Tell you what, if you were going to take up parking spots right next to the ramp, you should have to register. That's where I draw the line. Fair is fair, damn it.
Oh, we've had.
Do you want to know
I
something
did
I do
last-
when I go to a lake ramp? I never never park in the boat parking. I just go park in like the people parking. Because
Yep.
like, what do you need to be in a trailer spot for?
Great
I don't get
question.
it.
I
I
would
also-
love you to pose that
I
question to
also
the
don't
majority of New
even-
Hampshire anglers.
I
I
drove
don't
down-
block ramps. I don't block
legitimately-
ramps with kayaks either. That is like, it drives me
No,
nuts. Like,
oh,
I
God.
literally, if I'm going to use the ramp, I usually have most of it rigged, and I will literally just put it in, go tie it to the dock, or I'll put it off to the side, and then I'll just walk my stuff down and let people put their boats in. I go to some of the busiest lakes, and honestly, like, that's part of the reason why I got out of the whole boat thing, is I just got sick of how busy the ramps were. Now, if I don't even want to use the ramps, I'll just drag it through the grass, like, or drag it, off to the side, and you can literally launch that way. I don't understand why people rig their kayaks on ramps. I mean, I don't think that's even a kayak thing. I think it's like a person problem.
It is. It
like
is.
mentally, like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, dude, just
Like, if someone rigged their boat on the ramp, all right, like, let's say like you need to like rig your outboard or something on the ramp, people would be like, what are you doing? It's the same logic. Like, it
Oh,
just
yeah.
doesn't make sense.
No, you're absolutely right. There's problems on both ends of the spectrum, but
it's not even people that use the lake. It's people that just go to look at it and they just park their freaking car right on the launch. I was down at Potanipo. I was driving down to Ashton's, and I was gonna stop there real quick just to throw my glide at the lighthouse.
Yep.
Just because, just for shits.
there was someone parked on the ramp,
There was
wasn't there?
3 cars parked on the ramp. How do you do that? How do you do that?
As Mark just said, boat ramps are often more on conventions.
I don't understand how you put 3 cars
So,
parked on top of that boat ramp.
I was once
did it.
stranded at a lake and I was in my kayak because there was a guy crappie fishing. I have no idea where he was, but guess where he decided to park?
On the ramp.
On the boat ramp.
Oh my
And I
God.
heard him pull down, and I was like, okay, fine. He's going to fish out of the back of his truck, which he was doing for a bit. I eventually had to take my kayak all the way down to the dam, pull it up this like 3-foot like hill off the water onto this like thing. And I'm in my big kayak, my big one, my heavy one that's like 150 plus pounds. And I get it up there finally, and I had to drag it, I bet you, a quarter of the mile. I had to lay
Ugh.
everything flat, drag it under the gate, push it through, pull it all the way to my truck, back my truck down, and load it like that. Of course, when
I
I
would've
finally
reached in his
get
window and
it
popped him
loaded,
very
guess who
quick.
comes out of the woods with like 18 crappie?
Oh my God.
The man who had parked in the ramp. And I just asked him, I was like, why did you park there? He's like, oh, man, there ain't nowhere else to park. I didn't think anyone was here. And I'm just like, well,
Doesn't
what if
fucking
somebody
matter.
wanted to come there?
Right?
And
Dude,
he didn't even have a sticker for the lake, which I could go on forever about that. But
there's only been a couple of instances where I have like lost my shit mad at people. And the one time was
Well, that time when I was on the phone with you, I'm gonna kill you.
no, that's different. That's different. I'm just talking specifically about fishing and boat ramps.
What? Somebody pull out in front of you? That guy.
Listen, that guy was about as dumb gets. Okay, they would have
Boat
to
ramps.
redefine the scale of stupidity to be able to include this gentleman. But I digress. Anyway, there was one particular incident, and it's a local lake near us. It used to be a horrific boat ramp, and then they rebuilt it, and it's nice. And they put in like designated parking spots. They made a parking lot, and we went there like 2 weeks after it opened, and I couldn't even turn around because people parked all the way down along the side where you're supposed to drive through, up against the fence, and then there is a specific turnaround, right? You just pull in, you got room, swing your trailer back in, you're good. All of that was taken, including every spot that was supposed to be for trailers.
No trailers.
I was like, okay.
I think there's one trailer.
Yep. So I left. This was with me and Chrissy and the kids. Actually, no. I think the very first time this happened was with you. We just left. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to deal with it. I emailed Fish and Game. They went, they set, and we went back the next weekend, and I think it was like a Friday afternoon, and they had signs up everywhere. No parking, no parking, no parking. Boat turnaround only, no parking. Trailer only. Car topper. One spot for car topper only. I was like, okay, that works. There's only like parking for like 6 trailers anyway with the one car topper. Great. We went back a couple weeks later, my wife and my kids, and I pull in, even with all the new signage, literally everything is full, and there are cars parked back to back in the trailer spots. And I'm livid. And my wife's trying to calm me down. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
No,
It's principle.
We pay for this shit.
We pay for this. I've already been through this. I'm not doing this again. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to have every single one of these cars. I'm going to say, hey, look, I'm here with my boat. I'm stuck. I can't turn around. Like, we got to figure out something to get these cars towed. And she's trying to talk me down off my tirade. And then I see everybody coming in, and I felt terrible because it was a bunch of people doing like these special needs thing, essentially. And that's all it was. All these people coming in, I was like,
oh, it's weird because that whole entire place has a whole bunch of handicap parking.
Yeah, I know. And then there's that
on the other side of that beach.
Yeah, and then there's that. And dude, I felt really bad. I was legitimately like, if Chrissy wasn't there to stop me, I would have called the cops, and I would have like pleaded, have all of these cars towed and ticketed and get them out of here because this is BS. And then to realize it was like this camp that was coming in. Which doesn't excuse them, right? Like, the signage is clear as day. And for them to go park just on the other side is only an extra 200 feet of walking on their part. So it was like, come on. But
we go on and on about this all night about how much
it's always
we hate
the people. It's always the people who aren't using the boat ramps who are the most annoying at boat ramps.
Oh, yeah.
To get away from people.
My favorite, too, is like, there's the concrete boat ramp, and then beside it is like, just as wide as the ramp, like a nice just dirt like walkway, right? A nice sandy beach and everything. And yet, people with little boats will just plop their shit down right there on that concrete ramp, and they'll park their car right, they'll park back up on the lot. And they'll walk from the car down, and then it's okay, here's a life preserver, and here's my paddle, and here's my trolling motor. And it's
one
like,
thing at a time.
You could have put that shit in the dirt.
You could have drowned yourself.
Honestly, one of the biggest problems we actually have around here is I fish a lot of small impoundments, like local county reservoirs, and they don't have good boat ramps, and you have to pay to use them. But a lot of people will bring. I have so many stickers on my kayak, it's insane. But
damn.
That being said, it's funny because people hate kayaks for our, getting in the way. But we have the problem here where the bass boats come to these littler lakes because they're decent. I mean, they're nothing like insane, but they tear up the ramps because they're just like dirt and mud, and they back their giant, brand new Ranger. I had some dude out there like earlier in the spring in a giant Ranger, literally just like stuck, sitting there spinning his wheels, pulling it out, destroy the ramp. And it becomes such a pain in the ass to launch there because the bass boats are launching in these little tiny lakes. Because basically this lake I'm talking about is near a bigger lake. And I guarantee you what happened is they went over there, they saw that it was busy, and they're like, screw it, we're going to go to this lake. Yep. And they come there and they tear it up. And it sucks because like this county can't afford to fix it. Even though, we pay our $20 yearly launch fee. You get these people who I guarantee you that guy didn't have a sticker and he tore up the ramp. And like, I don't know. I guess it really is more of a reflection of like people more than like watercraft. And like, that's something that I preach about a lot because I get a lot of people hating on kayaks. And I just
don't think it's the kayak versus bass boat thing. I think it's just people versus people.
Yeah. I had a guy the other day. I had a guy the other day just come at me from left field. I wasn't even involved. He was arguing with someone else, and he like tagged me in a comment talking with this guy saying, he fishes out of the kayak, go on and on about it. And he's like, looking at his page, he catches little fish. And I'm just like, what?
What did I do to deserve
I didn't even
this?
say anything.
Right? What the hell? People are weird,
and
man.
then you just post a picture of the 9-pounder. Like,
no, I looked at his page and he was a muskie fisherman. And I was like, I got it now. I understand.
It's a whole other different
nothing wrong with muskie
people.
fishing. I love muskie, but I
still want to catch one. That's still
I've
on the
caught
bucket
a
list.
couple, all accidental, but
I would love to catch one.
I caught him in a kayak. It was interesting.
Awesome.
Very interesting.
Damn.
I got bit really bad my first muskie in a kayak, and I was bleeding everywhere. And I'm like, God, I just let him go.
Well, I think their saliva has like an anticoagulant in it that doesn't allow it to like
close up,
like clog. Yeah, clot.
Really?
Yeah.
That would explain it, dude. I feel like he barely got me, and it was just everywhere. It looked like a murder scene, and like I had to take my kayak.
Pike and pickerel too,
and mega bass treble hooks.
You're not wrong. Oh yeah, dude.
Dude, he got like a little bit better than skin hooked on our last trip out, and the fish it like he was trying to grab it. Treble was still lure was still on fish. Rear treble caught his thumb. Fish jumped out of his other hand and just ripped out. He's like, "Oh wow, that felt good." And the
Well,
next
I
time he's
grabbed
like,
it and I was just,
"Oh shit."
it's a little deeper than I expected it to be. So I just ripped it out.
Well, you're lucky
I
that
thought the
mega
fish
bass
ripped it
hooks
out.
just
Oh,
break.
I did.
Yeah.
You're lucky those hooks just break.
Well, it didn't. It broke the
Was it
skin.
a Vision 110?
It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah,
And,
those hooks are garbage, man. I could go on and on about those hooks, but
They're very fragile, but they are very sticky.
they are indeed. Yeah, I've caught a
Wouldn't
lot of
stop
big
bleeding.
fish on stock 110 hooks, though.
I still just run the stocks. I can't catch a big fish on a jerkbait to save my life, so I'm not really concerned.
Yeah,
It'll happen.
It
Chill
will.
out. You
I'll
got a
get there.
5 pound smallie on it. Go yourself.
Second fish I ever caught on a jerkbait was 5-pound smallie. As soon as my PB until 2 years ago. It's great. And then I didn't catch shit after that for a long time.
I caught so many 5+ on jerkbaits this spring. It was unreal. It was like one of the better jerkbait bites this year.
Nice.
Well, we're not far behind you with the temperatures, so
Yeah, I'm fingers crossed.
Dude, once it hit like 50, though, the bite just died on jerkbaits. I don't know what happened. They just only wanted to eat jigs.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
sick.
Yeah.
Thank God that's coming our
You know,
way.
I
Finally.
love
Settle
jig
down down
fishing,
there.
but it was like they wouldn't eat jigs all winter, which is weird, super weird. And then suddenly, like, it got warmer. They're like, "Wait a second, we actually want jigs now." And I'm just like, "All right, whatever."
We had
Now
a
they
hard
won't
time.
here.
Now they won't eat. Now the largemouth won't eat anything but spinner baits. So it's been a weird spring.
You gotta stop talking right now. I'm getting uncomfortably tight down below. All right. Pope Potato. Do you guys know if you need a parking permit for newfound tournaments before state park opens?
Tournaments. Ooh.
A parking permit?
Probably no. I don't think there's any parking permit.
No.
But you definitely need a permit for a tournament.
You just need a permit. I mean, you need the permit period from the state, but then you also have to figure out a weigh-in location. And if you're doing newfound, you still have to figure out the $10 that you need to pay. However, I did talk to what is the town on the south end of Newfound? Bristol?
I think that's Bristol.
And then the north end is Hebron. Or maybe it's vice versa. Whatever
Bristol's the lower end. Bristol is the town we go through
Yeah.
right before we get there.
Okay, so it's Bristol, and then there's that whole like town beach all along the South Road there. I remember they were working on the ramp one year. It's like 5 or 6 years ago, and I emailed the town. I was like, "Hey, like there's a marina right here, but they have no parking. But I can launch for $10, but I have nowhere to park. Can I go down and park along that South Road right there?" And they're like, "Actually, yeah, it's Memorial Day to Labor, no way. But down on that like because that time of the year, it was like
Like
in
the
April."
southern end?
Yeah, like literally all the way down the very southern end of Newfound. There's
Where
like
that
whole
little restaurant is?
yeah, like from the restaurant all the way to the bridge.
Yeah.
That's all just one big town beach. And it's all like parallel parking alongside the edge of the beach. So I asked, I was like, "Can I park there?" And they're like, "Yeah, we don't give a shit. If it's Memorial Day and after, don't even think about it. We'll tell you." Yeah. But aside from that, like we don't care right now. There's nobody looking for parking spots. I was like, "All right, sweet." So it got me thinking, I wonder if you could use that whole southern beach to do weigh-ins for tournaments and work with the town to get that done. Because why the hell not? There's no reason why the state won't say no to it. It would be weird, right? If the state stepped in, they're like, whoa. No, we're not going to allow that. If you're going to do this, you have to use our state park and pay the $10 per person to do the weigh-in. I don't think they can do that. I think if you do work with the town, you might be able to use that whole South Beach, which would be phenomenal. Because honestly, like especially early and late season, if you could use that instead of having to go to the damn state park, which is a freaking nightmare, and you can only put so many boats on that shoreline, like that would be awesome. Think about it. You could easily, and I've done it before. It's not fun, but if you had a 50-plus boat tournament, because I've done a 54-boat tournament on that lake, you could fill that whole South Shore with just boats.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody could beach all in one shot. It'd be great. It comes up. It's like kind of, it's not like super gradual like at the state park. It just is like, comes right up.
You could get so many boats in there.
The only thing that would suck is if you were out there in a northwest wind. Everybody would sink. It would be bad.
Park your boats backwards, boys.
All right. So yeah, you have to work with the state somehow. If you use the state park, I know of people that have gambled there when it's closed and they've gotten away with it. But just because the park's closed does not mean there are not people there. And I fished one tournament with a club with a friend, and I promised myself I'd never go back because I asked, "Do you even pull a permit?" No. Okay. What time's takeoff? 7. We're not. This time of the year, tournaments aren't supposed to go out till. Sorry, they take off at 6. State doesn't allow that. Tournaments will start at 7. Now we're going off at 6. Okay. Did you pull a tournament permit to use the state beach? No. We were 2 people away from being done with weigh-in, and all of a sudden a golf cart comes ripping ass all the way across the ramp, and I looked up. I didn't say a word. I just looked up and I started smirking. I was like, these guys are effed. And sure as shit, kid gets out. He's like, hey, tournament? And a couple people are like, yeah. And immediately he's like, cool, $10 a person right now. And the tournament director had to pay it all out of his pocket.
Nice.
So he looks up. He's like, he's looking at everybody. And I just turned around. I'm like, nope. I warned you before all this shit started. I'm not giving you a dime of my money.
Nope.
Anyway.
Pay attention to your laws.
Yeah. Super duper digression. Anyway. I tell you what. This has been going on a lot longer than I anticipated, which is a good thing. I had fun. We talked about a lot of random shit. Again, Jake, last chance. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up that we didn't get a chance to discuss?
Man, I feel like we talked about a lot of stuff. I mean, I could probably go on for another hour if we needed to, but I don't know. Like if people are like resistant to getting the kayak fishing, it's really not that hard. I honestly think it's a really good stepping stone too, and it doesn't actually even have to be a stepping stone to like big bass boats. Like if you want to just get out on the water and fish, like I've gone in places that would blow a lot of people's minds. Like I can get in 3 inches of water onto some of the spawning flats that some of these bass boats can never get on. So like I think kayak fishing is a lot of fun. Obviously it's got some limitations. Like you're not gonna go out on Lake Champlain and fish in 30 feet of water comfortably, but I think it's very accessible. Like I know a lot of younger guys that do it now. Like I'm talking like high schoolers or even like middle schoolers that like I would kill to have had a kayak when I was like 15, like especially how they are now. Like when I was 15, I was in the inflatable thing I was talking about earlier. So.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was in a kayak canoe that.
Damn it.
Yeah, me too. I actually used
on
to
the
fish on
top side of it. Trying. No, we covered it with hot glue, super glue, put some fiberglass over it, and then went back over it with like Flex Seal, and it still leaked. But whatever, it worked. It went on the water, and I caught fish out of it.
Perfect. All right, so for everybody else in the chat, I mean, I had it down there, video description anyway, but I was an idiot. I forgot to put it in the chat at the beginning of this. If you're interested, you can go ahead and follow Jake on Instagram. His link to his Instagram is right there in the chat, but it's also in the video description below. But go ahead, Jake, and again, for a little parting thought, let everybody know where they can find you and what to expect, where they do find you on social media.
Okay, yeah. So it's Ilyakin on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I do a lot of short form content right now. I've been getting the itch to get back into long form content, but I've been focusing on just like high quality original like content on like Instagram and TikTok where it's like actual fishing, which is I feel like is rare. Like I post a lot of like full cast to catch type stuff. Now I obviously I dabble in like funny stuff every once in a while. Like it's it's fun to not be so serious. But my main goal is always just like actual fishing. I don't try to like pretend any, like I don't try to like sugarcoat anything. Like usually a lot of my content is just purely me going out, catching fish and, the fun moments that come with kayak fishing. So.
Like losing your shit over a Senko.
You know what? I do have to say, I really appreciate your short form content. It was one of those things where I made a short video that I was intending to post as an Instagram story, and yet at the same time never intended to post it because it was, I wouldn't say necessarily negative, but far from positive. And it was about people that specifically just make short form content on social media and how the vast majority of them are completely talking out of their ass. And that's the extent of what I'll say. Because anything else I'm going to say, I'm just going to go down a really bad negative road. And I don't want to do that because that's just not what I want to be anymore. And what I haven't been for a long time. But, that's kind of the downside, unfortunately, to the majority of short form content I see is guys that just talk about stuff that it's like, that's not accurate. People that talk in absolutes when, come on, outside of the spawn, what is an absolute in bass fishing?
Nothing.
Really nothing.
There's literally no absolutes ever.
Yeah, and then
ever
guys that are constantly posting like using those same recycled, like motivational kind of speech, like canned audio things, and they're posting the same 2-pounder that they caught the last 2 years ago. They're still reposting over and over again. So all the same recycled content and crap, but that's not you. You are very, very, very far from that. And like you said, a lot of what you do is very educational, but then you also have a lot of funny stuff in there too, and it's refreshing. And what you say is actual good information too. It's quality, smart, well-rounded content that is actually factual. So
Yeah, I actually edit my content on PC using Vegas. Still using Vegas
Hell
in
yeah.
2023. And I like honestly like my YouTube past has been very useful because I've edited thousands of videos in my life, and I like edit all my reels and shorts and all that is literally like I've got this 40-second or 2-minute clip, and I figure out a way like how can I cut it down into 30 seconds is kind of like my upper end of it. And I try to just make sure, because nobody wants to get on Instagram and watch a dude reeling in a fish for 15 seconds.
No.
I will tell you guys
Do not.
those are the tricks of the trade. You set the hook, maybe give them like half a second of reeling, and then you're on to the meat. Like, nobody wants to watch me like sitting there trying to net this fish over and over. I will say though, like netting fish and like blooper stuff, I like posting that because I think it's more real. Like, I think like when someone sees like you messing up, it can be a little bit more relatable, because like, honestly, I do a lot of stupid crap in the kayak. I mess up a lot. I mess up in the boat. I mess up on the bank. I lose a lot of fish. I think that kind of content is actually quite valuable because everybody does that. Whether or not they want to show it to you, that remains to be seen. But
yeah. Nice, man. All right. Well, I think now is a good time to wrap it up. Thank you very much for coming on with us tonight, man. We appreciate it. It's nice to be able to get somebody that's also like, it helps that we already knew each other, but then to be able to talk again, more fishing and talk about kayak fishing, which we don't have many opportunities to cover, and then completely different region too. Like, everything about this is great. So thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I will speak for next week. We don't have anybody planned. I'm not sure what the hell we're going to talk about. I'm guaranteeing that whatever the hell happens this weekend will probably dictate next weekend's topic. Or something we haven't done in a while is just fly by the seat of our pants night.
An open mic night.
Open mic
topic.
night. Open topic night.
Open topic mic.
Topic?
Mic is the open topic.
Mike, check.
Mike.
Mike. So
Hump day.
It is hump day. I don't know what the hell we're doing next week or the week after that. The only thing that I really definitively have planned at some point is we're definitely going to get swim bait scrutiny back on here at some point.
For shizzle.
As long as I have fans. Tom has made that very clear. We have to have fans because it gets hot as hell down here in the basement.
We have fans.
With multiple. I
Us.
know right now there's 37 fans left watching us. There was a lot more earlier, but they all know it's the end of the night, so they're all bailing already.
They're like, snooze time. He's about to screw up the outro.
Joey, I'm going out Friday after work. If I'm lucky, I'll get a half day off too, and I'm staying out late, and I'm throwing my wake. I got my cycle gill. I'm ready to rock. I got my Sherpa. I don't have that yet. I got my LFOD monk. I've got all my big baits.
I got a secret crawler. We have secret crawlers.
I caught
The
a wake bait
Defiant.
fish last week. First one of the year.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Dude,
And it was like 2 pounds.
It's
cares?
better than nothing. You caught on a wake anyway. All right, Andrew, it's your turn. Sign it off.
See ya. We will see you guys next week. As always, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/Reel Nothern Bass.
Wait, it's actually, I realize that there is an error with what you've been saying. At no
Buffering.
fault of your own.
Buffering.
It's youtube.com/@Reel Nothern Bass.
/@
Because I that's part of the changes. And especially the way we change the name, the @ if you're writing it out like that, it actually matters.
/@ youtube.com/@Reel Northern. Thank you.
Or
This sucks now.
you can still write youtube.com/603bass.
Go to YouTube.
Either
and just
one of
type
those
in Reel
will get
Northern
you
Bass
here.
in the search bar. You'll find us. We will see you guys next week.
Everybody have a great night.
Later.